Welcome to another episode of Moen After Dark. I am, of course, Moen, and this is my co-host Immaculate. We are here to take your questions, answer your queries, hear your controversial takes, do a little point counterpoint.
Hmm.
Um, so this is the fan show. We couldn't do this show without you guys. You guys drive the narrative. We just try to steer this ship the best way we can. How you doing tonight, Immaculate?
I'm good. I'm good. Looking forward tonight. We've had such a busy week. We didn't really have much chance to really reach out with the community and see what they think. So looking forward to just focusing in on them today.
Sounds good. Let's see who's here. Let's say some hellos. Buckshot Kid. Oh, hey guys. He was the first one in here.
He was here early too,
He was here early.
very early.
And we got a new member. Antoine Codes has become a YouTube member.
Appreciate it, Antoine.
Oh, yeah. Winner.
Appreciate that, Antoine. I hope you take the time to watch Wild Ute University, his latest on Miami. If
Just
y'all
came
remember, just came out yesterday afternoon, Miami to the Big Ten. How does it fit? Fascinating look at how a private university might fit into the very public Big Ten. Nathan Campbell's here. Hi, guys. Nice to see you, Nate. Boy, this is a question. We'll start off with this question right now.
Sure.
Do you ever see the Big 12 getting split by SEC and Big 10? I think he means split by the SEC and the Big 10.
Yeah, I think so. What do you think?
No. They might take Kansas here or an Oklahoma State there, but the Big 12 is going to stay strong.
Yeah, there might be a one last little round of like picking some off of there, but no, the Big 12 is in a pretty good spot. They that's the safety spot now to be there. I think the SEC and the Big 10 are solely looking at the ACC right now.
I agree. Don Scruggs in the house, our resident SEC fan.
There it is.
Appreciate you having you here, Don. You need to tell more SEC fans to come over with you. I think you're kind of lonely out there.
Yeah, we definitely don't mind some SEC folks coming in here and telling us Big 10 guys that we suck. That's all good.
Yeah. Sure. Jose is in the house. Big 12 will get stronger once ACNC implodes. I agree. The Big Lubbock is number 5, and they are letting us know. Jan Hulk is all the way here from Slovenia. He wants to know what other sports are people here watching, if any. I will say this. Ohio State broke their 14-month road losing streak today at Michigan State in men's basketball. And the women's team ended up becoming regular season conference champions.
Yeah, I haven't been like watching it closely, but I have been following the women's basketball there at Iowa with Kate and Clark. Trying to keep an idea, at least a little bit, on men's basketball just for when March Madness comes around. But otherwise, we've been so busy following what's going on with the off season of football that, quite frankly, I haven't been spending much of my time actually watching other sports.
Yeah, all I watch is Ohio State sports. I will tune in sometimes to the Big Ten Network just to see what's on. You never know how exciting a sport can be until you bet on it. John Dry, hi y'all. I couldn't sleep. Too much excitement. The Comanche tribe approves of Texas Tech's Red Raiders. So does Spain with our Matadors. Okay, glad to hear it. And let's see, John Dry. We'll get to some more of your questions here in a second, John. I just want to make sure we've said hello to everybody, and I want to let Immaculate get an Immaculate in here. I didn't get a chance to hear him on Greg today, and I heard that he had some things to say, so I do want to let him speak his piece. Sergeant Pickles is in the house. Sergeant Pickles, co-host of the Big West Mafia show. That airs tomorrow night at 8 p.m. here on the College Football Mafia Network. You should definitely check that out. Him and Becky at Go Huskies give you a little West Coast perspective on how things are doing out there. Mooncat is in the house. Good evening, Mooncat. Good to see you. Don in Kansas.
Kansas represent.
Good to see you, Don. Buckshot Kid is still here. You wanted us to know that. Bill G is here. Jim F is here. Rock Chalk is here. Mr. Monkey Says is here. Two Master is here. And Kenneth Evans is here. And I think I've got everybody. So I'll let you go ahead. Chalk is that we're looking at a 14 or 16 team playoff moving forward, and that the Big Ten and the SEC are getting 4 automatic qualifiers.
Yep.
And I will let you go from there, Immaculate.
Well, everyone kind of knows what I'm pulling for. I think most people do. And so I don't want to come off as just biased against the 14 or 16 because of what I actually want to see happen or what I think is going to happen. But so I don't have a problem with the 14 or the 16. I know we don't have all the rules that we would need to do something much different right now. My issue with the future CFP is actually with the widespread usage of AQs. Now, I get the nuts and bolts, dollars and cents. We're getting into a very trying time coming forward where the guys who are running these athletic departments, they're not quite sure where the money's all going to come from. They're going to have to pay employees, maybe. They're trying to get NIL money back in. They're crunching the numbers, and it's not looking good. So they're trying to get in as much as they can, and I get that. And that's where they want this AQ status, 4 per Big Ten and SC or whatever, because then they're guaranteed to not have a year where they might drop off 1 or 2 teams, and that hurts the pocketbook. That hurts the balance budget. So they want to be assured that they're going to have a certain amount of money come in. And while I get that, I think that is extremely dangerous. My big point against it is it's going to make rankings largely unnecessary during the week of the regular season and then going into the playoffs. Even with 16, you're still only having 3 at-larges. Now, they'll have rankings and they'll make a big talk about it like it matters, but we'll all know, like, it's just not that big of a deal. If you're pulling 4 schools from the SEC and the Big Ten, those are going to be based upon Big Ten and SEC conference schedules. What they're doing, whatever their ranking is against everyone else outside those conferences, it's not going to matter. Not one bit. It won't matter. Like if your SEC teams are higher ranked than those Big Ten teams and the 4, it doesn't matter. We're still going to get our teams in there. Big 10, Big 12, you might have 3 teams, and with the third one's actually ranked higher than a couple Big 10 teams or an SEC team that make it in. Won't matter. So rankings are just going to go away. And I think that they are underestimating, and in terms going to have an unintended consequence where people are just not going to pay as much attention during the regular season. And if people say, well, how does that look? Think basketball. The regular season used to matter. It doesn't now. I mean, some people still pay attention to it, no doubt. Not saying that people don't, just not in the numbers that it used to be. And when you look at what the major tournament did to the conference tournaments, they're even less relevant than the regular season. Like, teams have a hard time getting all their players to even want to play in a postseason conference tournament. So that's what I'm worried about, Moen. I'm worried that the AQs, like if we had 14 or 16 and they didn't do all this AQ stuff, it'd be like, okay, they want to do something to get more money until they can get wrest control from the NCAA so they can make their own rules and do some stuff in the future. But this AQ stuff, man, it worries me. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to play the villain here and take the unpopular opinion. I don't agree with it. I think the entire tournament should be AQs. I think the Big Ten should get 4. The SEC should get 4 simply because they've amassed the most brands. I believe the Big 12 should get 2. I believe the ACC should get 2. And I believe the last 2 should be split among G5 teams independents.
And is it because, are you thinking that because just the money angle? Or are you thinking that actually would help with the competition?
I think it'll help with the competition. I think it helps the money angle for all parties. The advertisers and the media partners are going to pay more knowing that they're going to get the 4 best Big Ten teams, which are going to likely be the biggest brands like an Ohio State, a Michigan, a USC, and Oregon. And the same thing with the SEC. They're going to get an Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Oklahoma, a Florida every now and then. And then you're going to have 2. I think you're only going to really have 2 really fantastic Big 12 teams. That's nothing against the Big 12. But, I mean, it's going to be harder for them to recruit up against Big Ten and SEC teams. So, I mean, you might have a champion, Utah, that goes undefeated this year. We'll just use Utah as an example.
Okay.
But most years you're going to have a 10-2 champion or a 9-3 champion. So I think 2 is more than enough for the Big 12. Same thing for the ACC. The ACC is going to, depending on how bad the ACC gets decimated, if it gets decimated severely and they lose all their brands, they may have to jump into that G5 independent, and you would give the Big 12 another AQ at that point to bump that total up to 3. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but the end of the day, money is what drives this thing.
Yeah, that's what's doing this.
Yeah.
But I would counter that with saying you could be right. You could be right that how it plays out is generally along these lines. And so it's kind of like, well, what's the big deal? I would counter that with saying, if that's the case, then we don't need the AQs. It'll just happen. It would just happen normally.
I hear what you're saying, but it's not a guarantee. It would
I know.
happen. Yes, the law of averages is it would happen more often than not. The media partners want a guarantee.
Yes, but what I'm saying is the AQ tells me they don't necessarily think that it'd always play out that way, and sometimes the Big 12 might actually get 3 in there, and whatever the ACC is going to become. I've told you what I think it's become, and that one I understand because that one is truly playing the system. That's the Notre Dames and the private universities using their power to keep the ACC as an AQ even and getting those same number of games. I get that one. But with the Big 12, I think they're just worried that it might prove out that some of those teams, they might get in more than 2 if it's just left to things how they are. So what it is it's they want to know that a certain amount of that money is going to come to them. And so that way they can balance their budgets of the future. And that's really what it is. If they thought that they were going to earn that every year, I don't think that they would feel the need to do this. And maybe this turns into a final negotiation where they give the Big Ten and the SEC a higher payout. Because, there's 2 payouts in the CFP.
Right.
I know you know that. But for everyone watching, there's the participation payout, which for every team that plays, there's a certain participation payout. And now it's going to vary based upon how far in you go. But that goes to your conference, and then that gets split up however they want to do it. But there's also the per conference payout, and that's based upon how many teams you have. Largely, there's the SMU case where that doesn't get you a full payout. But what I think that might happen is that might get a more uneven payout. Like the Big Ten and the SEC, they'll give them a higher percentage payout than the Big 12 and the ACC in return for not having all these AQs. What do you think about that? Is that fair? Like, I don't know if the fair is right, but would that make the Big Ten and the SEC happy if they got more of the big pay, so that way the rest of the competitive element doesn't seem so
I think they're going to get that anyway. I think they're probably going to get a larger pay share, but I think the 4 AQs, I have a feeling that's coming more from the media partners than necessarily the conferences. I think they want guaranteed that they're going to have 4 Big Ten and 4 SEC schools in there. They want those brands in there. They want them guaranteed. So if a 7-5 Penn State ends up being number 4, yeah, it sucks that an 8-3 team out of the Big 12 would get left behind in that scenario, but they want Penn State. They want brands. Brands bring eyeballs, and eyeballs bring money.
We're seeing a lot of good chats right now. Let's jump into that. We'll
jump into chat. We've got 26 starred comments. We just wanted to get that out of the way.
Absolutely. But I'm seeing a lot of points about theirs that I like. Like the one I'm going to talk about is, should the SEC think that maybe they would get more than 4?
All right.
I think. So there's a lot in there we could dive into.
We'll go through that, but we got to take care of a little business here first.
Right on.
If you're joining us, we have 76 people watching us across all platforms. If you guys wouldn't mind, go ahead and give us a like. That costs you nothing. Helps us tremendously in the algorithm. If you're watching this show tomorrow on demand, during your jog, during your car trip, well, maybe not during your car trip, but leave a comment below. We interact and love to hear back feedback from you guys. So leave a comment. If you want to provide some financial support for the show, you can leave a super chat. You can become a member. You can gift a membership by selecting the cash icon at the bottom of the chat window, and I won't bring it up for another hour, or at least till next hour. And now we will get into the highlighted questions.
All right.
The Big Lubbock starts us off tonight. I think the G5, Big 12, and ACC vote together for 2 AQs each. 4 AQs each for the Big 10 and SEC, and 2 at large. That's if you're going to 16. That's similar to what I think, but I think you start at 14.
Yeah. The 16, it actually gets you 3 at larges versus just 1. The 14 gives you the 2 buys, which, maybe they say it's just Big 10 SEC. Maybe they leave it up to rankings so that rankings matter a little bit more, but it's going to most often be the SEC and the Big 10. I couldn't even answer this to Greg, which one I actually like better.
I think that they're going to have to do the 14 to start out because of contractually obligated conference championship games. Once they move to 16, the conference championship games will go away.
They'd have to.
Yeah.
Without the buys, they're a detriment.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's why they're looking at 14 to start out. They want to get all these contractually obligated conference championship games that the media partners have already paid for. So you might see the first 4 to 6 years would be that 14, and then it would expand to 16 once they can get rid of it.
Man, chat is going good today.
They're fired up.
Oof.
All right, that's what we love to see here. You guys drive the show. Antoine Codes, who just became a member tonight. Thank you very much, Antoine. Who gets the at-large bid? Is it based on ranking or record, or does the number 5 Big / SEC 9-3 team get the bid over the 10-2 Big 12 team? Polls will probably have the Big / SEC team rated higher. It's a great question. We don't know. We just don't know.
Notre Dame. That's largely who it's directed towards. Like the 14 with the 1, that's basically like the backdoor for Notre Dame to sneak in with. 16 with the 3 is basically like Notre Dame plus 2. Probably another SEC team, and then maybe like another Big 12 team. That's kind of what I would generally lean towards, is that allows you to get 3 for the Big 12 and 5 for the SEC. Which helps make this a little more palatable for me by having the 3. That's why I like the 16. But then, like you said, once you get to the 16, you lose your conference championships, and it's just like it's really hard to weigh it all and figure out which one to like better.
All right, Jose, what they should do is the top 2 SEC Big AQs, which would be the buys, get home field, and 3rd, 4th AQs have to play on the road first round. Maybe he's talking about the 16 with no buys. I actually don't hate that idea. I think that's actually probably a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some things that could be worked out if they agree on this to make it a little more palatable. Like I said, I just don't like the negative effect on rankings as a whole. Not that our rankings polling system is great. It's not. But it does drive a lot of attention during the regular season. So it's that unintended consequence of, if you lose that during the regular season, does it come back from the postseason, or have you lost some of it? So we'll see.
All right. Antoine Codes, at-large bid should have at least 10 wins. That's going to be rough. It's going to be rough if you've got 14 and 16 team fields finding at-larges that have 10 wins.
I don't see that happening at all. I think at-larges are going to be in the
unless it's a G5. Unless it's a G5.
Yeah, this is how G5s might scoot a second team in with the 3 at-larges. They might. And then, of course, people are going to be like, we need to get rid of them. But, I like Cinderellas, even when they get smoked in the game. I just like seeing a little bit of Cinderella action in there.
Right. Thanks for the question, Antoine. Rock Chalk. Hey, guys. A&M to the Big 10 over University of Texas. How real, along with Notre Dame joining the Big.
That's all you.
All right, let me just sum this up. There was a rumor going around that A&M would join the Big 10. I know because I started the rumor. This is just my speculation that by the end of the next media contract, the Big 10 will want to get into Texas. Texas A&M will be tired of being in a conference with Texas again, and Texas A&M will look for a way out. Notre Dame, I think, has the much more significant chance of joining the Big Ten than Texas A&M. But that's still my personal tinfoil hat you can use. If you're a member, use the tinfoil emoji in the chat. My tinfoil hat is Texas A&M ends up in the Big Ten at some point.
I see it. I understand the value. If they could somehow pull A&M, to me, it's a no-brainer, even though I make fun of their cheer guys. But as an institution, if the Big Ten could get A&M, would they do it? Yeah. That's just an easy yes. It's near Houston. It's a huge university. It's loaded.
Research.
I mean, if they want in the Big Ten, they can get in the Big Ten like that.
Mr. Monkey says, wants a Sopranos or Breaking Bad costume. We'll see. I don't know if I can manufacture that much meth, so I don't know that Breaking Bad's going to happen, but we'll see.
Oh my goodness, so many. I'm going through all these chats right now.
All right, you keep doing it, man. I'm going to keep firing.
There's a ton going on over here.
Caleb Ramirez, does Wild you or you guys know how many schools Notre Dame can hypothetically pay for to come to the Big Ten? Would it be enough for 2 or 3 schools with them? It would be 3 schools with them. I think that was discussed at one point that Notre Dame could pay the freight for itself and 3 additional schools. And that was at full shares. That's how much value Notre Dame had to that could brought to the market. Illini Ted's dropping by just to say hi, guys. Hey, always good to see an Illini guy. Miss the Illy Buck. I wish we played it more. Rock Chalk 94. Why would you agree to play an extra game against a conference team you've already played against when you can get rid of that title game? I think we both agree on that. When you go to 16,
it's
title
done.
Games go away.
Which means that extra value has to somehow come out of this. Like to go from 14 to 16, the value increase has to be more than the value they're losing from their conference championships, because they're getting paid, I think right now, about $20 million a pop for those. So as a whole, as a conference, they have to gain that plus some, just to make it worthwhile. So that might be a tough sell.
Right. Terry Kane, I highlighted this one. He says, RIP CFB. I highlighted this simply because I want to say this. There have been so many times that CFB has been killed. When we went to the 4-team system and Big Ten and Pac-10 teams weren't playing in the Rose Bowl, that was the death of the CFB, When the forward pass came along, that was the death of the CFB. When integration happened, that was the death of the CFB. College football is not going to die. It's just going to evolve. It's a matter of whether or not you like how it evolves.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the death of it. I'm saying like enough loss, possibly. I'm not predicting it, just saying it's possible here that whatever gains are made are unintentionally lost in another area, like in the regular season with numbers and advertising and whatnot. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see.
Exmositox. I hope I said that right. Exmositoxic. I don't know. If you look at history, all at-large hurts the Big 12 and definitely the ACC more. There have been more instances of the ACC or Big 12 with the current rankings where they only had one team in the top 14 to 16.
I mean, he might be right.
I don't know if that's factually accurate or not. I have no idea, but
we have a different Big 12 now, though. I mean, we haven't even had a single year to see what the new lineup in the Big 12, how it actually plays out. We have a lot of theories about how it'll work out, but we just haven't even seen it yet. So there's a lot of plans being made around that are, kind of based upon educated guesses.
Yeah, you're losing your 2 biggest brands in the Big 12 too, Texas and Oklahoma, which automatically got a ratings boost because they were Texas.
Ratings-wise, money-wise. But I think
I mean rankings too, because if you were Texas, Texas has been back about
Sure.
7 times since before they actually came back.
I think Texas and Oklahoma kind of held down the rest of the conference. Like now that they can all truly kind of run to win the conference to see who's going to be the top dogs, I think it's going to create a new kind of culture there of competition. I mean, that's not always been the case. You had Oklahoma States and Kansas States that rose up, but it's just we'll just have to see how it plays out. This is a no hierarchy conference, and that is a new thing. So we just have to kind of wait and see how that plays out.
Guys, we've got over 300 comments on the stream so far. If you want it guaranteed to be read, I know I said I'll wait till the next hour, but it's going to have to be a super chat. I am trying to get through these Immaculate is starring them as quick as we can. As soon as I get done getting one done, he's got 4 more starred. So
I will say that some of them are a little repetitive, so you might see some of those go through your guys' comments quickly, and it isn't because it was a bad comment. It's because maybe we've already touched upon it multiple times, but they're all good. So I just want to touch upon.
We want everybody to have a voice. So
there's a lot of good stuff going on right now.
King Spleen, I love that name. With auto qualifiers, would an SEC Big Ten team ranked 17th, 4th AQ get in over a Big 12 ACC ranked 16th, assuming it's a 16-team playoff? Well, I think we would have to know who in the Big 12 and ACC are ranked, how they're ranked. Because if the 16th team is the second best team in the ACC or the Big 12, no. If they're the third best, then yes.
Yeah, it's, we're trying our best to kind of make sense of it, and you could be right or not. I think with the Big Ten, I think 4 is a pretty good number, actually. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of seasons when the Big Ten also snags one of those AQ spot, or I mean, one of the at-larges, especially if we go to 16. At 14, I don't think the Big Ten's grabbing a 5th very often. I think that's either going to be the SEC getting 5 or the Big 12 getting 3. Of course, and of course Notre Dame, if they're not getting in. But yeah, the 16 makes it a little more difficult to project.
Mr. Monkey says going to a 96 team tournament isn't going to help. Yeah, I agree. You're always going to have arguments on who the real national champion is.
And he's talking actually about something that's really being talked about right now in the men's basketball tournaments. They're talking about jumping that.
I know.
And that, in my opinion, that is the power conferences talking with the NCAA saying, okay, we won't leave. You won't lose the tournament, but we want more. They're going to want AQ spots in the tournament. And so they're talking about increasing the size of it for more money for the NCAA in turn to get the power that they want. That right there, folks, is a negotiation happening in the public eye. That is for the governance that they want to take from the NCAA. This is something that they would give them in return. So that's some wild talk to see that they have to go from 68 to 96 in order to get this done.
Most toxic again brings up a great point. The AQs hurt the SEC, not the Big 12, and definitely not the ACC. You're right, because the way the rankings are done, the SEC always gets a little extra boost in the rankings.
Yep, they do.
So you're probably going to get 5 to 6 teams in that top 16.
Yeah, and maybe it plays out and it's nice. My biggest worry, like I said, it's that the rankings during the season matter less. So we'll see how it plays.
Sergeant Pickles, for the best health of the sport, they should go to 16-team, 5 automatic qualifiers, and home site first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I like the home sites. I do. I like it better than neutral sites with bowl committees and all of that old stuff. Some of the traditions I want to hold, some of them I could just toss out with the dirty water. Home sites, yeah, I think that should be. I think that you should have an advantage if we're going to do this. So we're going to have 9 and 3 teams and 8 and 4 teams. I don't think you're going to get their fans to want to go to 4 neutral site games in a row. You got to have a good amount of these as home games. So I agree with Sergeant Pickles.
All right. Jan Hulk, I don't know about this AQs. Don't like it. Well, I think Immaculate summed up his view on it. I've summed up my view on it. I think we all have our own view on it. And nobody's is more important or less equal than anybody else's. Mr. Monkey says, why should it be AQs? Why not earn it? Fair enough point.
Yeah, we kind of went into that, and that's, the people who are balancing the budgets in these athletic departments, they want to know what the low is that they're going to get in a year, because that's what they're planning on. They're not planning on what we possibly could get. They're planning on what we know we're going to get. And so that's why I think they want these AQs, because there's so much worry in the future with employee status and House versus NCAA that they just want to know what the bottom amount is that they're going to get. So I think that's what we're seeing as the business side winning out.
Right. Consolidation is going to change that recruiting dynamic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's already happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God.
There has never been an instant where the Big Ten didn't have 4 teams in the top 16. What did Iowa finish the year at?
They were
Before the playoff or for the bowl game.
That's right about where they were.
They were about 16,
18, 16.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they were there. But with the loss, the conference tournament, they have 2 losses. I don't think they would have been in it.
Well, no, because Oregon and Washington would have been there inside the Big Ten this year.
Mm-hmm.
That would have affected it.
Yeah.
The AQs only limits the SEC. That's
It's a fair point.
Point up. The SEC does get that extra edge because they're the SEC, and it just means more.
Sankey might be the one that does not like that idea. He might be.
Illini Ted, SEC isn't going to agree with all AQs because there are many years they have 5+ in the top 16. Huh?
He agrees.
We'll see. We shall see. Make the champion spots the only AQs, including 1 G5 spot. Keeps those championship games relevant and the illusion of access for all. Well, that wouldn't be the illusion. There would be an access for all. I mean, it's a valid point, but
yeah, it is access. If there is a G5 spot, then it's not really an illusion. People think that you can just get those guys out of there, but if they did not want all the G5 schools to be part of this and all the money that comes with them in terms of their fan bases and all that, they would have already separated from them. So they do have to give them some type of inclusion, in my opinion.
Well, the other point I would like to bring up is that right now we're saying this is terrible for it. But what if you did do a situation like Sergeant Pickle says, and then you have, 9 at-larges? What happens when the SEC and the Big Ten consistently get ranked ahead of Big 12 and ACC teams?
You could go in the opposite direction, yeah.
Right. You're going to have the Big 12 and the ACC complaining that they don't have those AQs, or they only have 1 AQ versus 2, because they're going to say, well, the runner-up to the Big 12 isn't better than the 4th-placed Big 10 team, which is Oregon. Mm-hmm. So, there's equals and positives and negatives on both sides.
And as Pickles knows, as our resident scheduling extraordinaire, the new way that they're doing schedules now does allow them to kind of look forward in advance, because they're only doing a year in advance now, and see who's going to have what good teams and whatnot, and they can kind of manage this off the schedule to, let's say, game the system a little bit. So maybe the AQs will help deter that as well.
Yes, Sergeant Pickles is the master of the scheduling matrix. At some point, Pickles, you're going to have to get on Big West Mafia and show people some of these scheduling matrices you've come up with for 32-team conferences.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything as good as it.
Oh, we got a super chat here.
There it is.
From Ryan Willie, the Badger. No matter how many teams are in the tournament or CFP, people will want more.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook.
I couldn't agree more. If we go to 16, number 17 is going to be pissed.
That's why I like the conference tournaments. They include more teams. The only problem is you don't get as much competition between the conferences. So your wins and your losses in that.
True enough. Thank you so much for that super chat, Ryan. Appreciate it. Kenneth Evans, once the ACC implodes, maybe the Big 12 will get 4 AQs too. Probably not.
Maybe a third, and you take one from the ACC, depending upon how their rebuild goes and who comes in.
The SEC has 5 in the top 16, whether they deserve it or not. Absolutely right.
True enough.
Quality losses, they mount up. Kazoo, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Moen, with these unbalanced schedules with so many teams in each conference, do you think the conferences themselves will pick their top teams over taking the ones that are higher ranked in the polls? I think what you're going to see on both conference levels is you're going to see scheduling that's going to be less competitive. You're not going to see as many. Like this year, I know Michigan has a murderer's row this year. I don't think you're going to see those murderer's row schedules as often as you could. I think you're going to see, hey, you're going to get 1 or 2 big matchups in Ohio State and Oregon, a USC, a Penn State. You're not going to get the I think Michigan plays Washington this year, USC this year, Penn State this year, and Ohio State this year. So, I mean, that's 4 of the biggest brands and teams that'll probably be significantly better than them talent-wise.
I definitely think this drives us away from OOC matchups. They just don't. Yeah. They're not going to serve much purpose. And you, like, especially the big ones.
I will say this: what if that is part of the agreement that they come to with these other conferences, that we will give you out-of-conference scheduled games with the Big Ten and SEC as home games for your teams?
Well, I think there are
these extra AQs.
I think that it will be the case. Like if you're going to say 10-game conference schedules here in the future, that's who they're going to want to play. They're going to want to play G5s. They're going to want those first 2 at the beginning of the season more to be warm-ups than they're going to want them to be big, massive blowout games.
Sure. But what's to stop them from giving, like, I'm just saying, if they said to the Big 12, okay, you give us this, we guarantee you 1 out-of-conference game for each of your teams against a Big 10 team.
We'll have to ask that to chat too, but it leaves me wondering, is that actually what the Big 12 wants?
Well, if it's a game at home, they're getting it as a home game. It's a Big 10 team. You're playing tough competition. I mean, you could knock off an Oregon, and that could set you at a higher rank to possibly get that 3rd Big 12 team into the playoff.
If you get the win, yes. But say you're the Big 12 and you only got 2 AQs, you're playing for those at-larges. And while, yeah, a win against one of those teams is definitely going to be good for you in doing that, what percentage would you give to them on if you were to take all those games, on what percentage of those do the Big 12 win? If that answer is under 50%, then I don't think that's a good thing. You see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but I think even a quality loss boosts you in the rankings. It maybe gets you an at-large. Maybe if you're 9-3 and one of those losses is to Penn State, that gets you in if Penn State has a really good season, especially if it's a close loss.
But the competition,
just something,
no, it's something to think about. Something to think about.
Some quid pro quo going on there. That means it's a fake CFP that is controlled by the media. Well, guess what we had this year? We had a fake CFP that was controlled by the media. Florida State won undefeated and got left out over a 1-loss SEC champion and a 1-loss Big 12 champion.
That's not a new idea, Kenneth. We just saw that. So
yeah.
That's he's not wrong, but that's not news.
It's been that way. You go back to the first 4-team playoff when Ohio State jumped TCU and Baylor.
It's why we got the CFP in the first place, the LSU-Alabama game. best 2 teams going into it. That's fine. Not arguing that. But they had the lowest viewed championship game in quite some time. And 2 years later, they got the CFP to make sure it isn't just 2 teams. So that was all media driven. That was ratings numbers and the money that comes from it.
Sergeant Pickles, mark my words, once the Big and SEC get their way with uneven revenue, only a matter of time before we see a merger of the two to get rid of the less valuable teams. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
No. That's where we depart, Mr. Pickles. I don't think it goes that far. I don't think it goes that extreme. Like, first off, I don't think the Big Ten and the SEC want that much to do with each other. Like, the fact that they're just willing to sit in the same room together and talk, that's a big deal. Kind of hard for me to go so far as to see them wanting to merge. Like, Big Ten teams are looking at some of those SEC teams and saying, yeah, you're not coming into our BTAA. Sorry.
For AQs, you run that risk of wrongly rewarding big SEC teams that had off years, not necessarily bad, but didn't earn their way in. Case in point, 9-3, 8-4, and 7-5 teams.
Yeah,
I don't ever see a 7-5 team making it.
No, probably not that. But you could argue and say, this isn't really seeking the championship team anymore. It's just an invitational tournament, which is fine. It's a moneymaker, which is fine, but it starts to go along the lines of the NCAA basketball tournament to where, it takes away from the regular season. Like, if a team goes 8-4 and makes it to this, you might start to think maybe we should do what they do in other pro sports where you sit guys, you rest guys. If we get a loss in this game, so what? If our team is in better shape at the end of the season, going into the tournament, who cares if we win 8-4 or 9-3? Our team is in good shape and we can win out nonetheless. So it could change a lot of little details that maybe people aren't thinking about yet.
Point. All right. Got some breaking news here from preseason champions OHIO, locked for the national championship. I think that is very dangerous to do. Pate's breaking news. Conference championships will not go away. Well, they can't because they're contractually obligated, at least for these media deals. Big and SEC ready to expand again. 4 divisions each in Big, and SEC playoffs will start in conference for Big and SEC.
This is sounding very familiar, Josh Pate.
Yeah, 4 division champs Big versus 4 division champs SEC is possible. Proposals not being talked about, but have most steam. So he's saying that the 4 best Big Ten teams will play the 4 best SEC teams.
This is how they're
at
breaking.
The end of the season.
Yeah. No, he's okay. What he's saying is that they are now in those talks starting to break out the idea of conference playoffs. Exactly what I've been talking about. It's division champs. We don't even have rules that allow for this yet. If this is really happening, then they think that they're already going to get that passed. That might be part of their talks with the NCAA for whatever they're doing is to get these passed. But that requires new rules, what he's saying, just to be very clear. You need new division rules if you're going to have 4 divisions. Now, maybe he's talking about pods, which is subdivisions. But there are rules right now that keep you from having more than 2 divisions. And in the postseason, you can't have more than 1 game, which has your 2 divisional winners going into it. So even with this, you still couldn't have 4 division champs because rules won't allow it. So it's very interesting that this happens. So I appreciate you bringing this to us, and we'll continue to talk about it. But this means new NCAA rules are now being tabled and talked about. So interesting.
Divisions look cool on paper, but in reality kill tons of rivalries that generate money. Got to be more creative. There's certain schools that get 3 protected rivals, and then some schools only get 1, and they get to leave out the illy buck.
Yeah. I disagree with Pickles again, brother. I understand how people think that, and maybe coming from the West and you're looking with the schools you're going to have there that it doesn't help. I think divisions build rivalries because, and maybe this is a Big Ten thing, how we have certain teams that we play every year, and those games matter. We have our silly little trophies and whatnot. But if you're playing in a division against those teams every year, and it's for a division championship that leads to a tournament, those games are going to matter more than the other conference games. Not the other conference games don't matter, but those games are what are going to determine if you make it into your conference tournament. So I don't see how they don't matter more, and then how that those don't create real rivalries within the division. So I disagree. I get it. Like in the past, they got so big to where they didn't matter as much. But if we're going to 4 or 5 or 6 divisions, we're talking about having like 4 or 5, maybe at most 6 teams in a division. That creates good rivalries, in my opinion.
Hey, Immaculate Moen, just was watching your buddy from PATC. Shout out to Greg Flugart, the Godfather. He was doing power rankings on the Big 12 quarterbacks, and he had Jalen from Kansas number 1. What you think? Huge KU fan, but surprised me. I think you have to give it to Cam Rising. He's been in college for like 19 years now. So
I'd go Cam first but both of them, I have a hard time putting both of them even at 1 and 2 because of injury issues. You got to play to be number 1. You got to play to be the guy. And I don't know if either one of those guys is actually going to make it through the season.
That's true.
So would I put them at 1? Talent-wise, yeah. And would I put Jalen over Cam Rising as talent-wise? Yes. Leadership-wise and getting it done in the past, no, I would still go Cam.
Yeah. Cam's got the experience.
But you could take either guy and say number 1, and you have a strong argument, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think go watch Cam Rising in those the Rose Bowl game against Ohio State, what he did against Ohio State. What if one year the Big has 5 true legit great teams and the Big 12 has 3 of the same? This is why there needs to be a couple of at-large spots and thus a 16-team playoff.
It's fair.
Completely valid point.
Especially when you take Notre Dame into effect with the 14. Any year that they're up there and they're going to get pushed, there's no room for the Big 12 to get more than 2. So I think that the Big 12 is definitely going to want to push for 16. I'm 99% on that.
Yeah, I still think there has to be some kind of punitive thing for Notre Dame remaining independent.
No, good luck with that. They got to vote.
Either they lose a home game or, something. You got to give up something for that independence. Steven, again, OU, go Bobcats. If 2 or more G5 champs go 12-1 and or 13-0, not saying that'll happen every year, and you have big SEC teams that go 9-3 or 8-4, do you keep a G5 out just because of their status?
I mean,
depends on which format we're going with.
Yeah. I want to say no, but I'm not creating this setup, and it kind of looks like maybe.
If we're at 16 with at-larges, I think the 8-4 Big Ten team would get left out for a 13-0 G5. Depending on who the G5 played.
Yeah.
If they've got at least one strong out-of-conference win, that's going to be the thing. If you're Tulane and you haven't played anybody, like your out-of-conference game was Rutgers. So Rutgers is good now, but figure out somebody in the P5 who's at Wake Forest, and that was their big win. That might not be enough to get them over that hump.
Yeah. I mean, let's see how it plays out. It's possible that either way it could go.
Scott Schrader, good to see you, Scott. Notre Dame should be required to go 11-1 or 12-0. I agree.
It's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out, because I think a lot of us agree with that, but at the same time, we're seeing how this is largely just a money-making operation, and the only reason why Notre Dame is in the room is because of the eyeballs that they'll bring. So even in the Notre Dame at 10-2, as much as I'd like to say they won't make it, I think they're probably going to make it.
At the very least, I would like to see the Big Ten stop scheduling them, and that includes USC.
If we go to this 10-game stuff, that becomes a serious possibility at 10-game conference schedules. Seriously.
Illini Ted, the Big Ten needs to get into both Florida and Texas to have all the recruiting hotbeds. It gives the conference a big advantage recruiting to offer a future game or two close to home. I agree.
I mean, that's the obvious like gain for it and why they'd want to do it, and why if you're the SEC or anyone else, you're trying to stop it. If they truly make that coast to coast league that they're now advertising with their little setup that they have at the College Football Hall of Fame, and they're saying it's part of the marketing now. So if they achieve that, it's really hard to say just how big the Big Ten could actually become. It's not the Big Ten that both of us used to know.
No.
It's becoming something else. And as an Iowa guy, I got to tell you, I'm a little intimidated, but it's going to be what it is.
That's what I tell people all the time. I'm old enough to remember when the Big Ten had 10 teams.
Yeah.
Don Scruggs, Texas A&M has never been considered to be an SEC-style team.
Yeah, I saw someone else respond to him opposite of that. So it's interesting how within the SEC folks, they're maybe a little split on this. I personally think they are. We're talking Houston. Houston, I've been there, seen Western Texas. Houston and Eastern Texas is closer to being like Louisiana than it is West Texas. I think East Texas is very SEC-like, but I'm not from there, so I don't want to say for sure.
From Conundrum, good to see you, Conundrum. Will ACC and Big 12 merge into a 24-team truck stop conference? No.
No, there's not enough value there.
Yeah, I don't know what the insult will be for the ACC. It won't be a truck stop conference at that point. It'll be what, a Egghead conference if the leagues join it.
They're going to have to create something entirely different and figure out a way to market that big time. I've got some ideas. Like if I was some of those private universities over there, I was trying to find a way to make money. I would, instead of just having a merchandise deal with like a Nike, I'd bring in some high end like fashion companies and work there. And they're gonna have to do something different and think some different ways to make that work. But a big merger does not work.
Yeah, I think the ACC will be the shipping yard conference.
The shipping yard?
All along the coast, all your coastal cities.
That actually, yeah, it is kind of going to be that. Yep.
Sergeant Pickles again, CFB won't die, but they can absolutely become less popular and lose standing to other sports. I don't necessarily
agree with number one,
right?
Maybe not number two.
Yeah, it's football, dude. It's football. I'll watch a bad football. You know what a bad football game is? It's still a football game. It's still better than most stuff on TV.
And saying number one but not number two, it still is a big deal. When you talk about these guys and what they're doing right now with these AQs, just because it's bottom line, and so if you lose money because you're becoming less popular, less viewership means less money. It still is a big deal. Even if you don't lose standing to other sports, say like you're still the number two sport, losing popularity is a big deal all on its own. So I'm not really disagreeing, just saying I don't think it drops that far.
All right. 2021 and 2022, Big 12 had 3 teams in the top 16, and none of those teams were Texas or Oklahoma. Well, there you go, Replica. Thanks for clearing that up for us.
Yeah, like I said.
They also got a team into the national championship game that year, so you can't take that away from them. Yeah.
I really wanted a chance to see what this new Big 12 is going to be, the no hierarchy conference. And, I know everyone kind of has their own ideas how it's going to go, but I think we might be surprised. I mean, they're going to be really driven to win that thing, and there's going to be a lot of competition.
Scott Schrader, again, do you think that we will get to a 24-team playoff like the FCS has currently? No, it's too many games.
It would take too many weeks.
Yeah.
No one cares about the FCS. Sorry. People don't care enough about the FCS that it gets in the way of like NFL or they don't have to worry about putting it on TV. It goes from the end of the season and they get right into it. And most people don't even realize it's happening. Like that's not the case with the FBS.
Steve-O, guys, I thought the Big Ten didn't want home games in December. No, there's certain stadiums that are not winterized. Ohio Stadium being one of them.
They sure as hell want SEC teams to come up there and play.
They do.
In December.
But the problem is when they're not winterized stadiums because of the facilities, restrooms and whatnot, the water's not turned on. Yeah, there's no water. So it's going to get real messy real quick because the pipes will freeze if they turn the water on. So there's a plan in place for Ohio State. They've been discussing it with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are doing some stadium renovations. They're probably going to play their home games in Ohio Stadium, and they're going to talk to the Cleveland Browns about splitting the cost with it 50-50 to fully winterize that stadium. Now, Minnesota is an actual winterized stadium. Their stadium is 100% modernized and winterized. So, but in a case like that, in December, they would probably just play it at Lucas Oil Stadium. But that's saying if it actually gets cold at all anymore. Who the hell knows? It used to snow on Halloween here, and now it's, I think I've got 4 inches of snow the entire year.
It's been a strange winter up there, hasn't it? Like,
yeah,
almost not winter.
It's going to be 65 on Tuesday. And thunderstorms. So, Ryan Willie letting us know he also upgraded his membership. He's now a wise guy. Much appreciated, Ryan.
Nice.
Clint Moses, will more players opt out for NFL instead of playing in expanded CFP?
No, I think it's actually going to drive more NIL money and might work in the opposite direction.
Sure, if there's bonuses.
Yeah. It's a good question though, man. Like maybe, but I tend to think with the added postseason play, there's actually going to be more money in college for these guys. So might have the opposite effect.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, this is another one of these questions, Clint, that we don't know until it happens. We can only speculate. The committee usually takes the path of least resistance, so the odds of them making the same decision year over year isn't likely. Well, they've made the decision every single year of that playoff to put the best media darlings in there whenever they could. There was a year Ohio State went in and lost 31-0 to Clemson when they weren't the Big Ten champs. They lost to Penn State. Penn State was the Big Ten champ, and Penn State got left out.
Yeah, that's what it's been. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people, this really opened a lot of eyes. It's an invitational, and it's really meant about making money. And one of the things I've said is I do believe probably most of the ACC schools, their people, whatever, were okay with FSU getting snubbed because it was to get Alabama in, which had the highest TV ratings for the year. And so it looked like they would actually have more money on the payout. And it matters. Viewership matters. That these payouts don't get determined until like 2 years afterwards when they've measured it out and got all the money in from the advertisers. So you might be shocked at the business decisions that these guys make behind the scenes in order to fund their departments.
All right, Rock and Ramp. Pate talking about how some AD candidates being asked in interviews they are okay by the face of having to cut non-revenue sports depending on what path that things go is.
Of course they are. I mean, if they're forced to turn players into employees, they're not. I'm sorry, they don't have a choice. That's one of these unintended consequences I like to harp on. You've got to look and say what unintended result is going to happen of this decision that we're going to do, and that does not happen enough. Like, I harp on it because they don't seem to think about this. They think that their ideas are so good that they just look at what they want to do with it and they do it, and they don't think about what they could be effing up.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that they're going to F up is they're going to look at their bottom line at some point and say, we got to cut something. Well, you're not going to cut what's funding everything. You got to cut what's being funded. And that's non-revenue sports. It's a pretty simple equation.
Yep. Newtonian law. Every reaction has an equal reaction.
Yep.
Jan Hulk, do you think if we go to 4 AQs from the SEC and Big do they go 10 plus conference games because only those would count for the spot in the playoff? I think just by going to bigger conferences, it's going to force them to go to 10 conference games, having nothing to do with the playoff. They're going to need more inventory. It's going to happen.
The playoff adds to it, but in the case like this, where we're looking at the SEC, if it's true, Pate's reporting it now, dude's got connections. If he's saying that they're talking about actually getting ready to do that and go to 20, they're going to have something that helps pay for it. The SEC going from 8 to 10, ESPN didn't want to just outright pay them. I guess they tried to go up to 9 and they just wanted pay from the SEC, from ESPN. And ESPN said no. Kind of tells me ESPN's been planning for a little while. They want to save that in order to get schools over into the SEC. So when they expand, expect to watch them go up in the number of games they play. So if the Big Ten's going to 20 and maybe beyond, they're going to need that 10th game because that adds more value than an OOC game on average. You know, you have some of your big games in the out of conference, but that's not the majority of them. So like with the SEC, they're going to give up that November OCC game and they're going to get a good value for it. So yeah, once we go to 10, it's that actually helps them determine who their 4A Qs are and whatnot.
Ryan Willie, what are the minimum requirements to move up to FBS? I think there are too many FBS teams. I will let you handle this. I will take a shot for the working man. I saw Daniel Gygax there in chat.
Nice.
Out there, coal mining country, keeping us warm.
There are some requirements. I'm going to tell you, I've gone through and looked at some of these NCAA, the rules and all this. God, it's terrible reading. What we have seen recently is that they have raised the amount. It used to cost you $5,000 to go through the application process to be raised up into the FBS. And they have now raised that to $5 million. If you think the amount of work that goes into raising a school from the FCS to FBS has gone up by, what is that, 1,000 count? Like, God, just doing the math. I don't want to do the math. From 5,000 to 5 million. If you think that it's a tax. So that's what it is. They're limiting who can go based upon how much money you got, how capable you are to be able to even compete up there or be up there. And we're gonna see some more movement. I strongly believe it. That's why in the FCS meetings that have been happening recently, we went into that on the show. The details of that it was the basketball schools that are having that meeting and trying to figure out what they're going to do. It's not all the schools that have football. They're not sure. They're on the fence. Some of them are looking at going up. Some of them may stay down. So there's going to be movement from the FCS to the FBS still. That's why I don't really believe in this whole P2 separation, all this stuff, because these schools, they know more than us. They're still looking to go up. So in terms of the actual requirements, I don't know. Maybe some other people do. Seeing like stadium sizes, I think might be part of it. Certain facilities. There are requirements. I don't know all of those exactly, but the biggest thing is, can you afford to pay $5 million to rise up? And then all the costs after that as well.
Okay, 4 divisional champs go to the CFP is what Pate is saying. Okay, that makes a little more sense, but in order for that to work, you're going to have to go to a 24. You're going to have 24 teams. You're going to have to. You're going to have 24 teams of 6-team divisions.
Could have 4 divisions of 5.
You could.
I get what you're saying.
Who are you going to put in that West Coast division with the other
for like the Big Ten?
For the Big Ten.
Well, that's why I have ASU as a dark horse. But you could also do Colorado. You could technically, if it helps the ACC, take California off their hands. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Stanford wants them there. But yeah, you're going to have to. You'd have to be like a Florida State plus. No, you're right. Okay, math does not work with that. They would have to go to 24 or 25.
You'd have to go to 24. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what they're basically saying. He's saying they're going to have a conference tournament. Because they can't have divisions like that without new rules. And if they're going to get those rules, then they might as well change the rules for conference postseason. And let me ask you this. If you're the Big Ten and the SEC and you're having all this fight to try to drag a little bit of extra pay out of the CFP from these other schools, how much money do you think they'll make if they have their own conference tournaments of, say, 4 to 6 teams, and they get to sell that directly to the networks themselves? I mean, I think that money could be, you could say that their championship game all of a sudden is maybe worth $100 million or more.
I think this only works if all 3 conferences go to 24 teams.
That's even an opportunity for the G5s.
Sure.
Because then you could have your own conference tournament and you could actually sell that to a network to actually put on TV.
But I think what he's saying is Pate is saying there is no conference tournament. It's just you're going to have a big West champ, a big Plains champ, a big Mid-Atlantic
I understand.
champ.
And for now, that's the case because they don't have the rules
Right.
to do their own tournament. But it to me, that starts to look like a stepping stone. Like, okay, we want to start creating these things that we're going to do in the future when we have the capability to do it. But we have to figure out how to do it in the meantime. So we create these structures and we see how to work it into the current structure. But that can easily transition later to something that requires less agreement among everybody. And if Big Ten and the SEC want to have all the value that they think they have, well, then you just have your own playoff and you're going to get paid way more than the other guys. And to others, that might give you a pause to worry. I think it'll be fun. And I think fans will enjoy that. But it also means that they're going to be doing their own deals much more so. And the CFP will be a smaller cut.
Yes, from preseason champions. Yes, the comparison he made was the NFL model of AFC versus NFC with 4 pods or divisions of 5. Again, for the Big Ten, you got to answer the question, who do you put in that 5th spot out west?
I think he's misunderstood. Like when he says the AFC, NFC, then they're going into this whole breakaway idea. That's not what it is, though. It's not just going to be them.
No, I think he's saying that the AFC North champ, South champ, there's 4 divisions within the AFC. Each one of those champs gets a playoff spot. I don't think he's bringing up the wild cards or anything.
Okay, I got what you're saying. And yeah, that it, for your general fan who's trying to understand what he's talking about, that's a good model to show. And I said with folks, they are going to look at the NFL, which makes god awful amounts of money, and say, what can we take from their model that will work for us? They're not going to completely copy it, but they're going to look at it and do something. And that's it. The playoff model. When you look at the playoff model, it's 2 conference playoffs would then go into the postseason game. Now, with only 2 conferences, you only need 1 game. But in college, with, we'll end up having 3 or 4 power conferences, 3 or 4 G5 conferences. Now you're looking at maybe, 6 teams coming into it. It's much bigger than just a Super Bowl. Now you can have an actual super tournament, for lack of a better term. But I get what he's saying, so that's a good comparison.
I just thought of it. I would probably put Northwestern in that Western division, simply because they're close to Chicago, the most direct flights. It would be the least tiring travel situation, I think. But who knows? It's still an interesting question who you add out west if you have to add somebody. But at any rate, you're going to have to rob the Big 12 to do it because,
and they
Stanford
probably know
and
it.
Cal are not going to get in.
But that's why he put in the exit fee amount, because he's going to get his little cut for you to take him. So, smart on him, but he knows it's probably coming.
I think the most interesting comment from Pate was that the proposals not being talked about have the most steam. So no 14 or 16 team playoff. We will see. He might be right. I mean, I don't know. We don't know.
I'm with him on that 100%. I mean, we've been saying, I don't know how this is going to come about. I'm not there. I'm not in it. But to hear him say that he's hearing it from these guys, I 100% believe this. And maybe I have some bias in that, but it just makes a lot more sense that they go into this and they talk about the 14 and they talk about the 16 and all these AQs. They had a 9-hour marathon session meeting about it. Obviously, they're not all in agreement. At some point in time, you got to look at this and say, okay, well, how about this instead? I think I'm going to have to go back and watch that show after this. That's what I'm thinking.
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, we're going to look into that and talk about that more in the future.
But don't watch that show right now. Wait
No,
until after we're
stick around
over,
here.
and then
Get our thoughts on it, and then we'll go into it and
says.
talk about it later in the week.
Pate does not have a blue trilby hat on. That's what I'm saying.
And honestly, I mean, I love Pate, but he's really just starting to dip his feet into realignment now. So, like when he's talking about these things, that's him trying to understand it as well. So, really do appreciate that he's bringing all this information out, but he's not going to be able to get into the details quite as much just yet.
Yeah, huge fan of his dad, Hans Moen. A&M fits better in the SEC than Texas. Lots of LSU alumni in Houston.
I agree. I mean, like I said, it's a very much a southeastern feel there.
Jim F says SEC is the Buc-ee's conference, and I say that with pride.
I hope we can get some Buc-ee's over here in Arizona. I keep hearing and seeing about it. I'd love to try it sometime.
It's no Sheets. It's no Sheets. That's all I'm gonna say.
Sheets or shits? Oh,
Sheets.
No shits.
Sheets.
Oh.
It's a gas station chain called Sheets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's the northern version of Buc-ee's. The Big Lubbock, the Big 12, Big ACC, and SEC all had 2 of the top 10 5-star recruits this past recruiting season. Okay. Makes sense. Pacific Northwest Youth, the new CFB oligarchy will give Big Ten money to winterize the stadiums. Yeah, well, like
Sure.
I said, the Ohio State's trying to do it on the cheap with the Cleveland Browns. So
luckily, you guys probably don't have to worry about Minnesota making it anytime soon. But that is frigid up there, and that is an outdoor stadium. Crazy.
But it is winterized. It is winterized. The field is heated. So it is not as frigid as like a Camp Randall. Now we got a super chat here from Pickles. Sergeant Pickles. Immaculate, I defer to you often, but divisions are very flawed. Few teams will all share the same rivals. Quadrangle of hate has blinded you to this. Ha ha ha.
I mean, I think that I have made, and I know Moen has made, our little division setups. I think that I personally created some very natural rivals. In fact, I've even said the movement from 20 to 24 or 25, remember 25 and 5, the movement from 20 to 24 or 25 is going to be much more based upon your geographic location in order to round out these divisions. We're not going to go past 20, probably, maybe we will, but probably until they have these rules hammered out and figured out. So, you know, maybe you prove out to be right, bro. But I think that is a great way to make more value out of games that otherwise maybe don't have as much value. Because of that division hunt, that division race, the division championship race, and especially if you put them near the end of the season, they have more value.
All right, another $5.
Hey,
Thank you for
Outlaw.
the super chat, Sergeant Pickles. The outlaw of college football with a super chat. This is just delaying the inevitable. The Big Ten and SEC will secede in 2026 and cherry pick the ACC and Big 12 to form a 48-team league. NCAA will go away.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have that opinion, and maybe that happens. I'm just not a believer in that they actually want to do that. There are other political ramifications when you're at the state level and some of these schools that are tied in politically. So I don't think it's just that easy. These aren't just athletic leagues. There's a lot more to it, but I mean, I get it. I mean, just looking at it, I mean, you think that it would make sense, I guess, but you know, there is some viewership you lose as well.
Well, you know, here in the Big Ten, we don't care much for secession, so. All Don in Kansas, all that money Ohio State gets every year, and they don't have a winterized stadium. They've never needed a winterized stadium, Don. It's like getting an ivory back
Yeah.
scratcher. I mean, it's just been unnecessary.
Yeah, and people talk about like, oh, it's too cold and it's winter up there. Like, yeah, but we don't actually play in these stadiums during the heart of the winter. It's just late fall.
Late fall during the day. So, I mean, even your coldest November day might be 19, 20 degrees. I mean, you got to remember, Ohio Stadium was built 109 years ago, I think. So, it's not exactly easy to just go in there and winterize stuff. Or cheap. 24 teams playoff. Woof. What's the point of the regular season? Just like this proposal for a 96 team March Madness. Please no. Yeah, MH5, Mr. Monkey Says kind of covered that earlier in a comment. We talked about that. Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the 96 team maybe has a little bit more chance of happening, but I think that's probably the big ask, and that'll get down from like 96 down to 84 or 72 or something, which is still a lot.
I think I heard Penn State is winterizing this offseason, so they're ready for 2024. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of stadiums or a lot of schools up north are going to start doing that.
They're going to have to.
Do you guys think the Big Ten will open up negotiations for content with ESPN again now that ESPN is developing the shareable app with Fox and WB?
Yes, especially if they get so big to where it's hard because with CBS, NBC, and Fox, that covers the 3 windows. They'd have to have some agreement to where it wouldn't be on like main channel ABC. It would be like maybe like a minor deal. Like this can be on ESPN too, so it's not heavily competing. Or they might start to do something like that to get more content out. But for now, there really isn't room for it. But in the future, when they get much bigger, yeah, I could possibly see it.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a streamer in there somewhere. Either Amazon or they're going to do some kind of deal with Peacock to put even more games behind that paywall. Shonsky, nobody is interested in a conference playoff, especially in the Big Ten, who is going to watch all those bad teams play against each other to find out Ohio State or Michigan is the champ. Well, I don't know, but apparently somebody, because he just got paid the richest media contract in college athletics history. So
I wanted to mark his because he's been very regularly commenting in our videos, which we very much appreciate. Like people don't always have to agree. We're fine with you disagreeing with us. But part of this is kind of based on what the Big Ten was. And we'll fully admit, a lot of our teams just weren't really thinking about evolving and playing the national game. It just really wasn't a Big Ten thing. A lot of our schools just didn't care. Like that's the thing people kind of misunderstand about the Big Ten is they don't always care about the national storyline, and they've started to now. But with the new teams coming in, it's not. I don't really understand where this is coming from, where you think it's just Ohio State and Michigan. It's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's USC, it's Oregon, and then you have your up-and-coming Wisconsin with fifth goal. You've got Nebraska possibly rebuilding, Iowa, hopefully with their AC is coming up, Washington, UCLA, maybe with Bieniemy now getting there. That's kind of got me a little worried. Penn State, of course. Like, you're not even talking about them. So I get it. You know, people come at the Big Ten and say these things, and that's fine. But I'm sorry, it's just not that much reality to it. And I know you got a comment coming up we'll get into that I also marked as well. But the recruiting numbers based upon the new schools coming in and the numbers that are going up to the NFL, it's showing out. Like, you know, we'll see how it goes out in the future. But it's not the Big Ten that you know in the past. It's just not.
All right, we got a $9.99 super sticker from FCS guy.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook.
Thank you for that super sticker, FCS guy. It means a lot. And it is into the next hour, so I will bring that up again. If you want to provide us any financial support, go to the cash icon. You can become a member. You can gift memberships, or you can leave a super sticker like FCS guy just did, which we greatly appreciate. Or you can leave a super chat like Carrie and his tricolor Basset Hound Dash did right here. I don't like the idea of Fox and ESPN getting together. Go Knowles. And Carrie, I promise you, I'm going to get Charles Montgomery in here at some point. He is terrified of this green screen. It's very hard to get him back into this storage room. So at some point, I will get him on the stream for everybody. I just might have to give him a Benadryl or something to sedate him.
Yeah, we'll see how this new partnership plays out. But this is basically the old money starting to fight off the new money. These are like brothers that have been fighting over the family spoils for a long time. And they just finally looked up and looked around them and went, wait a minute. Why are we fighting each other? Everyone's coming for what our family has. And they have decided to stop fighting each other is what it looks like. We'll see.
I could put it in a little bit better context. There was a
better,
father
okay.
bull. There was a father bull and a son bull standing on top of a hill. And the son bull says, Dad, why don't we run down and screw one of them cows? And the dad says, no, son, we'll walk down and screw them all.
There you go. Definitely funnier than mine.
Pacific Northwest U, 24 teams. How about 25 teams with a second play-in? Do I hear 36? Just kidding. And then you're going to get that's a little outrageous. Come on.
It's silly, but probably someone in there was like, hey, what if we did could we go a little bit further? Like, there was just one guy in the room.
Jim Phillips was going, well, we have
Yeah.
Notre Dame, so that should count as a 16.
Yeah. As silly as it is, like, there was probably one guy in the room that just everyone else just kind of went.
What? Like Jim Phillips is talking in the room and like nobody's taking him seriously. And they're like, so we're getting pizza. What do you want on the pizza? And Jim Phillips is like, can I get one with just cheese? And they're like, pepperoni good, mushroom good, sausage good.
The cheese guy. That's funny.
Jim Phillips just looks like a guy who would eat a just cheese pizza.
I'll keep my comments about that to myself about what I would think about just all cheese and nothing else. But all right, next comment before I put my foot in my mouth.
It's like next year, Immaculate. You're saying Iowa is going to play for the Big Ten championship.
No.
Who is your third and fourth team in that Big Ten power conference is going to be your third and fourth.
I take that back. That's not what if that's what it came off. I don't think Iowa's going to be in the Big Ten championship this year. I do think they're going to be better than last year, which is pretty good. But with Oregon coming in and now with no divisions, you could now have an Ohio State and Michigan. You could have Ohio State and Penn State, them in Oregon. Like maybe USC gets their stuff together. I don't think Iowa's going to make it in the Big Ten championship game this year. I do think that they might win 11 games, or at least 10. But I don't think that they're actually going to get in because I don't think they'll be the only ones. But
yeah, I think it's a rematch. It's Oregon versus Ohio State too.
Could be. Yep. It's just Iowa has a very easy schedule compared to those schools. Most of them have at least two to three hard games. Iowa has Ohio State, and Washington and UCLA have kind of been hurt by coaching and departing. So they got a little lucky with who they got scheduled against from the incoming teams.
When Pate says something like that, it is the truth. He loves college and knows people. I don't doubt that that's not an option being discussed, but we should just keep in mind that's speculation. That's not necessarily what happens. Like everything we've speculated about here tonight is not necessarily what happens. We're all sitting here throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. But thank you, Jan. We appreciate you tuning in from Slovenia here at 2 a.m. in the morning there.
Yeah. I do not mind Pate being a guy in that room talking with those guys. I think he's a little – I don't agree with everything he says, but I do think he's a good voice to have in there. Maybe pulling back on the reins a little bit. And so I don't mind hearing that he's actually getting involved with this stuff now.
FCS guy says he's watching from the cheap seats. We know that's not true, FCS guy. You gave us a $10 super sticker.
But I do feel for the FCS. That's why I marked that as.
Yeah.
It's It's tough.
We've
man.
upgraded you to the luxury suite.
There you go.
You're okay in our book. Outlaw of college football. Oh yeah, the Big Ten and SEC have discussed secession. Moen, so yeah, they absolutely care. The AAU is a farce, and the academia is going by the wayside. And this ain't just an SEC guy saying this. Well, again, people up here don't particularly care for secession, so I just don't see it. And the AAU it's a country club. It's an invite only thing. You're right. It's a farce. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know and who you pissed off and who you haven't pissed off. So
I'm no doubt that they've probably talked about it. I mean, now they're sitting in a room together with just them. So if they didn't ever bring it up, I would say, why not? But that doesn't mean I necessarily think they go that route. It's just why give up their own little fiefdoms when they can just cooperate? It's like, why become one country when we can just have an alliance and remain our own two countries? So, yeah, I don't mean it to come off as like we doubt you that this is being talked about, or if it's not like a serious subject. It's just I don't think it's going to happen.
all right. Steve-O. Immaculate, is Iowa Stadium winterized? If not, where would they play? I believe your guys' stadium probably wouldn't even need to be winterized.
Not
would it?
normally. I don't think it probably is. But I would also say that if they find out that these things might be coming, they're going to prepare for it. I mean, Iowa will prepare as if they're going to win. They will spend the money as if they're going to win. So I wouldn't be surprised if schools like Penn State are already looking into it, that we get some news that Iowa is as well. But I don't think they are yet.
Antoine Codes wants to know who invited ASU to the AAU.
That's a great question. That's why I got marked. And I would love to know that. Now, they actually, in my opinion, deserved it because of how kind of out front they are in the new semiconductor research field. That's going to be a big time future tech, future research, big money, because a lot of that's coming from offshore. But is that enough, or was there some kind of just like a signal? Because that's the one thing that's been said, that ASU, their weakness for realignment was like not having that, and how Arizona did. So the fact that they have it now, it puts them a little bit higher on the list for, say, the Big Ten. So if there was anyone that got it for them as a possibility, I would say it was the Big Ten. But largely, I think that they earned it themselves.
All right. Let's get some more comments here. Shonsky is on a tear tonight.
He is going on it, and I appreciate you, man. And I get it. You feel very strongly about this, but a lot of people out there have very strong negative opinions towards the Big Ten, and
the numbers have been great, Immaculate, for viewership, but what have they done on the football field? They haven't done shit. Well, I would say the Big Ten did win a national championship this year, even if it was Michigan cheating.
yeah, I would say, brother, you might be a little biased in that, and that's okay. Here's what it is. I mean, the Big Ten has really only ever had to just kind of do its own thing, and the strength that it has is because of what it is and how long it's been and what it's built up to be. So if you don't want to like the Big Ten, you're okay then. You're not going to get like shuffled out of here or nothing like that. Believe me, we hear it from the Big 12 guys on this show. So it's not that big of a deal. But to say like they haven't done whatever, I would say, well, that's your opinion on that. I do believe that they have.
Kenneth Evans has the answer. It was the University of Toronto that really wanted ASU in the AAU club.
Solved. Thank you, Kenneth.
Solved it. Thank you, Kenneth.
He's not wrong.
Much.
There's a lot of Canadians down here.
FCS guy. FCS 2014 playoff, 10 conference auto bids, 14 at large. 8 top seeds get buys regardless of conference, i.e. one conference could have 5 seeds. The rest are seeded all on campus until championship.
You know what? I think this comment wins for the day because there's so much logic in this, and the FCS, by not having so much money in the whole situation has been allowed to just approach the situation with full logic. There isn't like money influence that's making you go, wait, how does that work? It's just straightforward, makes sense. And to a degree, for FCS fans, to some degree, I think maybe I'm a little jealous that you guys get to have such a logical tournament. You might be losing some schools here in the near future, though.
Winner.
There you go for getting the winning comment.
That's the winner right there.
Shonsky again. Who has USC been? Who has UCLA been? Oregon's been stable, and who has Washington been? You guys still lack. Oklahoma ruled the Big 12, and when they didn't, Texas did. Well, I mean, but Ohio State and Michigan have more or less ruled the Big 12 or Big 10 for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So we've had our two power teams. Washington made it to the national championship game this year. Oregon made it to the national championship.
The award-winning offensive line, like as an Iowa, that's a big deal. To put together that's a feat unto itself. It's not easy to do, to have the top-rated offensive line in the country. Not easy. So I get it, man. You really want the Big Ten to be looked at and regarded as crap, and that's okay. But your argument of that Oklahoma and Texas, like he says, you're kind of making
my
argument.
point.
Yeah,
for the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been top heavy for the last 20 years too. Kenneth Evans, Oregon will be in the same boat after Daddy Phil Warbucks kicks the bucket. Unfortunately, that won't be the case.
He's got to trust it. It's
He's
all
got
set
to
up.
trust. He's got to trust at Oregon that's all set up, and his protege is from Oregon, who's also a close to a billionaire.
Yeah. If anything, Oregon wants him to kick the bucket because then he can't change it.
That's true. That's awful to say, but that is true.
It is pretty awful to say. I can't believe I said that, but it's true. I don't think they actually want that. I'm just saying, when he does, they're set. Like there's nothing to change it. It's in trust.
Shonsky, don't get me wrong, Immaculate Moen, I love your show. I'm just wondering where the Big Ten thinks there's good as the SEC over adding these teams, because the SEC is way, way over you in football. They have been, but I mean, you still have to put the Big Ten at number 2.
And where has the SEC been getting some of their quarterbacks? Been getting them from the Big Ten. There's certain things that the SEC does better, no doubt about it, and there's certain things that the Big Ten does better. And now with the additions, look, it's going to be a new balance of power. We've got to figure out between the Big Ten and the SEC, between them and the Big 12, what's going to happen to the ACC. So we're gonna see how this plays out, and maybe it proves out that the Big Ten doesn't keep up with them. But when you look at recruits and guys going to the NFL, it kind of looks like the new ads have evened things out. We'll see.
Someone asked if Boston College fits in the ACC geographically. I said yes. Boston is next to the Atlantic coast. Someone comment. I don't disagree with you. They fit. I mean, same as Syracuse fits.
I mean, they're there. They're not going anywhere. So
Penn State did steamroll Utah in the Rose Bowl. There you go.
There you go.
And now that Michigan is going to get hit with sanction, you guys just lost another team. It's like an ongoing thing with Big Ten. You guys are always in trouble all the time.
That's because we don't cover each other's ass.
Yeah, Tennessee is not in the Big Ten. Trust me. Florida State is not in the Big Ten yet. There are other schools that get in trouble besides Big Ten schools.
Yeah, Big Ten schools will turn each other in.
Tony Lawson asks, who does the Big 12 have? Well, we're going to get into a war here.
I mean, that's to be determined, TBD. We're going to see who stands out. And whoever stands out, they're going to have good records. They're going to get in the postseason. Recruits are going to be like, okay, I can play there and get seen. Who does win out and do that? It's yet to be seen. That's why it's kind of exciting to watch and see who ends up coming up on the top.
Yes, it's TBD until people TCB, at which point we will determine who is BIA. 2024 members in the Big have claimed 65 national titles, and the SEC teams have claimed 56 national titles. No doubt SEC has had more recent success. Yeah, nobody's going to argue that the SEC is not the best football conference in America, guys. That's
We're trying
by
to get
far-
there.
Yeah,
And
we're working on it.
And the Big Ten, I swear to God, it's sacrificing basketball to get there. And it's kind of like, wait, guys, let's not do that. But it's happening. I mean, their athletic departments are now focused on football, and that was not always the case.
Baylor and TCU have won. Laura Weiss, Texas Tech. Baylor and TCU have won as many conference championships in Texas in the last 10 years. But Texas has been back about 4 times in the last 10 years. Texas is back. Here's another comment. Jared Jones.
Go ahead.
Maryland swept Texas in a home a couple years ago. I seem to remember one of those games happened right after Texas beat somebody to become Texas being back again.
And the thing is that Texas still gets all the recruits. And yes, you guys are beating them. And them grabbing all the recruits from there is actually kind of holding you guys down. And from what I'd seen and heard, Texas was a lot of times feeling like our guys aren't caring about these games as much as those guys are. Now, to some degree, that's just, that holier than thou hubris talking of looking down on you. And I get how that's very upsetting and frustrating. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually the case as well. And so I think that's why Texas has for a while been looking to get out. I don't think they want everyone who plays them during the regular season to look at that as their biggest game of the season. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who steps up.
Outlaw of college football again. All disagreements aside, I really love you sincerity and what you say, Immaculate Moen. I really like the added flair and intertwined costume comedy, Moen.
Dude,
this is what I look like every day, dude. Every day.
You should see him in the office.
You should see me in the office. I got big clown shoes and everything.
But yeah, that's exactly what we do. I mean, we're not putting on airs. We're not trying to look down on anyone. I mean, if people are going to think what they think, and I've seen your show, so I think that you would probably fit in pretty well.
Right, and this isn't a 2-man show. This is a 200-person show here. We're just out here hosting it. It's everybody in chat that's putting out the comments, putting out the super chats. They're the ones who are driving the show. We're just trying to steer it the best way we know how.
Yeah,
we're just 2 good old boys doing the best that we can. The Big 12 has cyclone fever, and it is more valuable than any media contract or playoff.
Hey, I'm fine with that. I have a little soft spot for ISU. I mean, we kicked them around, but I don't want to see any damage come to ISU, and I want to see ISU win that damn conference. I really do. So I'm all for it. I hope it happens.
I got a fever, and the only cure is more cyclones. SEC is very good at the top and very mediocre teams 7 and 14.
I mean,
yeah, but those mediocre teams are better than the Big Ten mediocre teams.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I didn't want to admit. I was like, yeah, but if you take their mid against our mid, they probably win.
Yeah, but I think Northwestern would beat Vanderbilt. I do.
Yeah, we got that one.
I think our nerds are better than their nerds.
Yeah, definitely.
If you are getting in trouble, you aren't doing it right. That's right. And Michigan got away with it for quite a while.
They might actually get away with it. We'll see. The NCAA's got much bigger problems on their hand right now.
Yeah. I've never seen NC State in a New Year's Six or a playoff game. Now, I know they played in a New Year's Six at one point.
I have no idea.
I believe it was when Phillip Rivers was their quarterback. But I digress.
Not a bad guy to have in your history.
Tennessee set Alabama back in the day. SEC don't cover anyone's ass. Okay.
Not going to argue with the man. The man knows his SEC. It's just at times it feels like there's the SEC against the world, so to speak. Kind of feels like, but maybe that's just an outside perspective and it's not right.
TCU has 2 national championships in 1935 and 1938. Then UCF, Colorado, BYU, and Oklahoma State each claim 1.
Okay. I mean, history's cool. We'll see what the modern day versions do.
Well, we got a super sticker here from Donnie McNerney. Thank you for the
Donnie.
super sticker, Buckeye brother. Much appreciated.
Nice.
Shonsky wants to let us know he's a Big 12 fan. We
we
figured that out from the college.
You can see it right there.
Yep.
Yeah,
We
I don't
gotcha.
think your comments about the SEC being better are you coming from an SEC fan. I just think there's a lot of Big 12 fans that do not like the Big 10 and think it's crap. So you're not the only one.
I'm not saying the Big 10 hasn't done it. I'm saying who has done it besides Michigan and Ohio State. Penn State. Penn State won a national championship in 1994.
True story.
They went undefeated 12-0, and they got robbed of being a national champion because they played a shitty Pac team in the Rose Bowl. Texas and Oklahoma are about to find out what life is like in the SEC. They will be middle of the pack. I disagree. I think they're going to be above average in the pack.
I think they're coming into the SEC at the exact right time. Like, yeah. I'm not saying the SEC is down. It's just not quite what the SEC has been in the past. And Texas is maybe at their peak. And Oklahoma, they might be 7-5, 8-4, or they might do better. But I don't think they're going to be like getting kicked around.
Iowa State not winning the Big 12. Utah, K-State, Oklahoma State, KU all got going to be in their way. Yeah, I like Kansas. And Colorado, for whatever reason, we'll see how that experiment continues to work.
Yeah, people always, it seems like every year they put off Iowa State. They look down at it and say, oh no. And then end of the season, some team is like, oh, we're almost due. We're going to make it to this or that, whatever. And then Iowa State beats them and destroys their dreams. So overlook them at your peril. But that being said, I do think the 4 he listed are probably the top 4.
PNWU, all signs point to Michigan getting off the hook. You know why? Because they're going to say all the people who knew aren't there anymore. And we can't punish the people who are there.
Got them out of town.
Yep.
Michigan does have connections, and they got those guys out of town into new jobs in the NFL.
Every one of them got out.
Yep.
Moen, love tonight's costume. Are you going for the Lollipop Guild? No, this is my 1950s barbecue costume.
So good, man. That shirt is just perfect.
Yeah, and the blue trilby, the Dr. Doolittle hat.
It's one of the best ones.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Donnie McNerney. Hey, y'all. Hey, Donnie. Thank you for that super sticker again, brother. Appreciate that. TCU is nearly due for its next per century title. Hey, they made it to a championship game. Didn't do very well, but they made it. Like, I had kimchi once. How was it? I had kimchi once. I root for ISU over Iowa every year.
Of course,
I have to admit, I do too. Because I mean, there's been so many times that an Iowa team that is so dominant for no reason whatsoever goes in there and lays an egg against ISU.
It's the same thing with like Texas and sorry guys, but like Texas Tech or some of these others. Like those teams just want to just beat Texas so much. And Texas is like, yeah, we want to win, but God, Jesus. It's kind of the same way between Iowa and ISU. Iowa wants to beat them, but they also kind of got their eye on other things. Whereas ISU comes in that game, they just want to rub it in so bad. And it's little brother. And it's not like they're little brother. I mean, it's, like your little brother that's like 2 years younger than you or something. But that's what it is. But I'm not surprised that a Badger fan wants to see Iowa lose.
All right. only Uga is dominant, really, and they struggled this year. They trailed the first half a lot of games. Talking about the SEC here, obviously.
Yeah. You know what? I'm watching Tennessee, man. I know they put a licking on Iowa, and that I don't think they realized what that quarterback was going to be in that game. That quarterback is good. I think that Tennessee team could be something. So I'm watching Tennessee. Like he's saying, Georgia. I think Texas is going to be something serious this year. We'll see how it goes, but I think they're going to have some good teams.
Replica, Texas is going to open up a can of you know what in the SEC. 5 years from here, the SEC schools will regret inviting Texas, regardless of the money. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think Sarkisian's the right man for the job. They've got Quinn Ewers coming back this year. They've got Arch Manning waiting in the wings. They've got apparently Lamborghini money for NIL recruits. So if you got Lamborghini money, I think you're going to be pretty successful.
I agree. I think that I don't think they're going to regret inviting Texas as an institution, as a conference, as the whole business plan. But I think fans and football, there might be
they might regret inviting the fans.
There might be some buyer's remorse later. We'll see.
Shonsky, I really love you guys. I drink when I hear Big Ten, and tonight
you are trashed, aren't you? You are absolutely trashed right now.
Cheers.
If he's been drinking at every Big Ten mention, he's feeling it.
All right, guys, it's going to be 15 minutes. We got about 15 minutes left here on the stream, so this will be the last call. You can get those messages in here. We're going to start trying to rapid fire through them. We've had over 700 comments tonight, Immaculate.
Yeah, that's why we do it, man. I swear to God, when we're having shows during the week, I can feel it. I can see it. Like it's like people contain, like, listen to us. And it's like, there's just so much to talk about. And that's why we do this. That's why we do this. We want you guys to get it in, be heard, have discussions. And I love seeing you guys having side discussions in chat. Remember, that's where we're from too. You know, when we're calling in on Greg's and having discussions in chat. So it's kind of our way to have fun with you guys and give you that chance for yourselves.
That's right. It's for the fans by the fans. Conundrum, Immaculate. Hawks beat the Clones more than Buckeyes beat the Wolverines. Well, that's probably true. We've been playing the Wolverines for 122 years now. So,
and you know,
how long have you guys been playing ISU consistently?
Yeah, but you know, for like our Badger fan, you know, why don't you guys allow another one of your Wisconsin university system schools a chance to rise up? Why do you have to hold everyone down in your state, man? I don't get it.
They're not holding them down. They're just drunk.
Too drunk to get up and care.
That 2002 North Carolina State team was the best they ever had, only double-digit season in school history, and I believe they did make a New Year's Six bowl that year. I believe so. I believe they were the ACC champions, and they made a New Year's Six bowl.
I say put NC State in the Big 12, and you might get surprised.
Mo, and Charlie Sheen never wore that shirt better. Well, if I got the quality of, I better not say that.
Winning?
It might get knocked out tonight. Someone asked if Boston College. Yeah, we already hit that one.
Oh, my Super 32.
Immaculate, need your Super 32 team list.
Oh, of what is this? Like the Super Conference? I mean, we can't even do that. There's 18 and 16, so I'm already screwed because we're not going to kick anyone out.
Jim F. Texas and OU don't understand the kind of attrition you get playing even middle and SEC schools.
We'll see. We shall see. Maybe they fall out. Or maybe we find out that they can. And the Big 12 was maybe a little bit better than everyone thought. We'll see.
Yeah, I like Texas to win the SEC this year. Replica, with the new NIL regulations, schools like Texas and Ohio State will separate from the pack. You're absolutely right. Now
With
that
the
there's no
caveat,
rules, what's that? What's your caveat?
this is temporary. Shall we? Chaos gives you a chance to do change. So we are getting put into a state of chaos so that they can change things to move from the NCAA current model to the new current model, probably still in the NCAA. So things are moving into just like pure chaos, because that's what pushes people to allow things to be changed, is when it needs to be. But once they have that power and the ability to deal with it, they're probably going to put in some new regulations very quickly. And so we're going to hit this peak period of where everything is just super messy. And yes, as you're saying, Texas and Ohio State and these guys are just going to kill it by having these walk-ons that are in, full NIL deals. And so they have larger rosters, but that will get dealt with in the future. My opinion, but a pretty strongly held opinion.
All right. We got a super chat here from Mooncat. How much do you spend on Crown per week?
Damn, yes. Tell all.
The
tell all.
That was opened on Friday, I think.
Yeah, it's been going through them thanks to you guys and
And that was like on Friday. I was absolutely smashed when I got off stream, so I'm not drinking nearly as much as I drank on Friday night. Friday night I got off stream and crawled to bed. So listen to Freebird. Preseason champ. Thank you for the super chat, Mooncat. I appreciate it. By the way, Crown Royal here, local liquor store, is $24 a bottle. In case anybody wanted to donate a $25 super chat to cover the Crown expenses for the week. North Carolina State actually finished 4th in the ACC in 2002 and won the Gator Bowl. They were behind FSU, Virginia, and Maryland in conference. Virginia? Wow. I mean, that Phillip Rivers team was probably the best North Carolina State team I've ever seen. I'm absolutely flabbergasted they were behind Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia. Wow. Virginia is one of those programs, one of those schools that people kind of tend to not think about, but they could become something if they really want to. I think that they're on their way to doing it, but they had a tragedy there, and it set them back 2 or 3 years in terms of what it did to them and the mentality. But they were on their way; they were building up.
47-23. Iowa leads the series with Iowa State. Okay, so that's 70 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not the 100+ games that, And those were years when Michigan was the only football team around. They didn't even let Ohio State have helmets.
Yeah, I'm not sure when Iowa State as a university was kind of built up to the point to where we could start doing that. But I'm sure Ohio State and Michigan were built up before that point by quite a few years.
Kenneth Evans, Texas does not need to worry about attrition when they play bum teams like Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and Aggie. Oh, boy, taking a shot right at A&M.
Hey, Kenneth he's a Texas guy. He's going to come in here and shoot back, so that's all good.
Moen, you cool as hell, but no way Texas wins the SEC this year. Georgia's still top dog. Look, man, I'm telling you, Quinn Ewers, I think he's going to have a big season this year. Better than last year.
I do think
that running back is legit. That running back is legit.
I think that's the matchup, though. I do think it's Texas and Georgia at the top.
All right, we got a super chat here from Carrie for your Crown Moen. That means I got to take a big old swig of this.
We're going to put a little post-it note on Nate there saying, Carrie says so.
Yep, that's right. I'm going to have to tell him, I have to show him my receipt when I go to the liquor store this week. End up getting like $100 worth of booze and just telling Nate, no, somebody totally said, let's do that. Thank you, Carrie, so much, dude. I'm going to play your sound effect.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook.
Thank you so much, Kerry, dude. I appreciate it. You're killing it. Appreciate it. Look, you even got Immaculate to take a shot
I'll
for the
drink to that.
working man. Yeah. Cool. We got that one. Replica, whatever guardrails get put in place, will they be to the benefit of the elite or else they'll ignore the rules like Tennessee and Virginia?
Remember, these things require votes. And while the elites tend to have voting blocks, for real, that doesn't mean everyone just bows down. Will they benefit from it the most? Probably because they tend to be elite because they have the most money, the most capability, the most backers. So whatever rules do get in place, they can take the most advantage of. But will it be made in the particular interest of giving them even more benefit? No, it'll maybe actually just the opposite. It's just those schools, whatever rules get put in place, they find a way to still maximize.
Immaculate. Chaos creates cash. College football is cashing in on chaos.
That they need it right now. They need it in order to be able to get everything pushed that they need to. Otherwise, House versus NCAA is going to roll over them like a tidal wave.
Kenneth Evans, A&M is the one school that doesn't take any crap from Texas.
Yeah, maybe yes, but also now, well, you got Texas in conference, so maybe they'll come join the Big Ten, huh?
Clint Moses crowning Coke Zero, actually. Zero sugar because I don't want to have diabetes. And that's the thing that I'm worried about is the Coke. I'm not worried about the alcohol consumption. It's the sugar in my Coke.
Sugar, that's my thing. Yeah, that's bad.
$24 for 24 teams. Crown Royal. Hashtag Crown Royal.
Nice.
Can't wait for the SEC to go 9 or 10 conference games a day. They will complain about taking the extra losses.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that they may not like is that when they don't have that that rest game, second to last one, but because that's going to be the next one to go.
Super chat dollars to go to fund for Moen's liver transplant. You know what? I beat cancer, Jim F. I'm not really that afraid of liver transplant, but thank you anyway. I swear I don't normally drink this much off stream. Off stream, it's a very rare thing that I drink. I'll have a couple cocktails when I get home, an old fashioned or something, but that's about it. The record is even since 75. A&M was a small military college, all male until the 1960s. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I totally forgot about that. So what year was it when Chris Long was in Virginia and then he was the first pick in the draft? Well, if it was that same year, he couldn't have been because it would have been Eli Manning got picked by the Chargers and then got traded for Phillip Rivers to the New York Giants. So if that was the same year, he would have been picked second in the draft, I believe.
I don't know.
Friday night, I think Moen was taking a drink after every pick mention. Moen was very drunk on Friday night.
I think that was a GT mention night.
Yeah, that was a Georgia Tech mention night, and that was just general. That was a Friday night.
We got some folks in chat that like to see us in pain, so they mentioned Georgia Tech as much as possible.
And then I went and made Georgia Tech drink emojis.
Oh yes, we have some
Ohio
people that maybe
State
haven't seen that.
Yep, 119 meetings between Ohio State and Michigan. So we've got about 50 on the Iowa State rivalry. So forgive us. So think sometime in the near future there will be a minimum basic NIL payment for all college football and basketball players. If so, will it stay in the collective realm or directly from the universities? That's from Edward Weiner.
It's a good question. He tends to have really good questions. Both, but more from the universities in the future than what it is now. I know that's a pretty weak answer because it's kind of hard to know exactly how much. I think the NIL is going to be largely marketing companies that want a particular person, for marketing. The individual donation stuff that's been going on through NILs, that is what I think the athletic departments want to bring back. So that's where I think the dividing line will be. The private donations, individual donations are all going to probably go back into the athletic departments. And then NIL will mostly be like endorsements and things of that nature.
Right. Later, Kerry, guys, got to take Dash out to take Big 12. Oh.
Big thank
Let
you,
him
Kerry.
cook.
Thank you so
Let
much,
him cook
Kerry,
now.
for your support, dude.
Let him
You've been
cook.
awesome. Been a fantastic part of the show, both tonight and Friday night. Ohio State joined the Big Ten in 1912, not Iowa. Well, you're actually wrong because they joined the Western Conference. It wasn't called the Big Ten then. I don't believe. But I might be wrong.
Yeah,
I might be an asshole.
we're going back into just before 1900 when it all started to come together. Like in terms of details of what it was first and what it became, that's just a different story. But yeah, it all got started right around the turn of the century.
Shonsky, go BYU Cougars. I don't think there's ever been a BYU fan this trash. LMFAO, go Cougars.
Hopefully you don't get in
obviously
trouble at
does not-
Temple.
Yeah, he does not adhere to the morals code. God bless you, Shonsky. Have a good night, and thanks for coming in here. We
Absolutely.
love the spirited debate.
Take all the shots at the Big Ten you want. We got thick skin.
Yep.
We can take it.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. And one last thing here. I just wanted to put it up here. Since 1891, Nebraska has played Iowa in football 54 times. Nebraska leads the series 30, 21-3. Iowa holds a one-game win streak. Nebraska lost the last game 10-13. I think Scott might be a Nebraska fan.
Now that I know that, I'll try not to hold that against you. And that being said, just remember the one stat that matters is that you needed us to be your rival. We didn't need you. Just leave it at that. But now it's a pretty good damn rivalry. So screw the Cornhuskers.
We'll do this. Shonsky drunk on a keg of milk. And then Shonsky come back. Moen man up. I will drink with you any day. We can talk about Big 10 and Big 12. Hey, anytime, man. You name the time and place when BYU comes to play Ohio State. Look for the guy with the Moen jersey, number 69. All right, guys, we gotta seriously take off here. Jan Hulk, this will be the last comment, I swear. Big thanks to both Moen and Immaculate for Day and all the other shows that you guys do. Thank you guys, because without you guys, this show doesn't happen. This is your show. Like I said, Immaculate and I just try and steer this ship as best you put us out there. Remember to tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern for Big West Mafia show with Sergeant Pickles and Becky Go Huskies. They give you a West Coast look at the college football arena. There's not a lot of views from the West Coast, so definitely give that show a check out. And then we will see you guys all on Tuesday at 8 for the next episode of the Big 12 Mafia show.
Absolutely.
You have anything else to say, Immaculate?
Well, thanks again, Jan, right there with that last comment. Coming into us from, okay, tell me, is it Slovenia?
Slovenia.
That's huge. Really appreciate it, man. You are here every time hanging in there with us. So, and we got a lot of new names coming in here that we're heavily involved, and we really appreciate you guys coming in and coming in. We learn from you guys as well, a lot. So thanks again, everybody, and all of our loyal supporters who've been coming in with us. Man, honestly, this is maybe our favorite show just because we get to interact with you guys so much. So glad you guys are enjoying it and sticking with us. Numbers did not drop the whole time, and we look forward to this one every week. So have a great night, guys, and thanks again.
Yep. See you next Sunday.